Stop. Listen. Pay attention. Chosen one, this moment is not incidental. You may have felt the weight before, subtle, persistent, almost invisible. But now it demands acknowledgement. You have carried fatigue that no one else could measure, pressure that seems to come from every direction, and a quiet isolation that leaves even familiar spaces feeling heavy. The rhythm of ordinary life has felt disrupted, and yet you moved through it step by step, often without understanding why the effort felt so immense. You have known confusion, days where decisions seemed heavier than they should, nights where thoughts spun without resolution, and moments when even the smallest task demanded more energy than you thought possible. You may have convinced yourself that it was just life's natural load, that it was temporary, or that perhaps you were imagining the strain. But the truth is more precise, more intentional. This message is landing exactly because of that tension. It is here to give clarity to what you have sensed but could not fully articulate. Chosen one. This is not background noise. It is not a passing thought. It is crafted specifically for you to meet you in the exact place you have been carrying this weight. You are not being addressed as part of a general crowd, nor is this a reflection of generic experience. You are being spoken to directly because your experience contains a pattern, a signal, a design that others simply do not carry. Your body, your mind, your subtle awareness have been registering forces and pressures in ways you may have dismissed. You have adapted, adjusted, and even compensated without conscious recognition of the mechanism at work. You remained functional even when the sensation of burden seemed unrelenting. There has been an invisible structure holding you steady, an automatic resilience that allowed you to navigate moments that would have destabilized many. There will be explanations coming, clarity you can hold, understanding that aligns with what you have already sensed deep within. You will see why the confusion, the heaviness, and the quiet pressure were never signs of weakness, but indications of a deeper alignment, a subtle preparation. For now, notice the steadiness beneath the strain. Observe that despite everything you continued. This is not luck, and it is not coincidence. The purpose of this message is to reveal what has been quietly unfolding around you, to give language to what has been tangible, yet unspoken. It is personal. It is precise. It is for you alone. Chosen one. Pay attention now. What you have endured is part of a pattern that is about to be seen, recognized, and understood. The weight you felt is real, but the path forward is clear. Listen carefully, for this clarity will begin to align with every sensation you have carried, and it will do so without forcing, without pressure, without exaggeration. This moment is the opening. The rest will follow with purpose. You are exactly where you need to be to see it. Chosen one. This message is for you and for you only. There is no ambiguity here. You may have felt alone in your experience, as though no one truly understood the magnitude of what you carried, and yet that very isolation is a mark of the truth you have been operating under conditions few can recognize. The tension, the subtle resistance, the moments of inexplicable endurance. They involved you directly, not as a metaphor, not as a suggestion, but as the central participant. You are the chosen one, not because of any visible achievement, nor because of public acknowledgement, but because of the way your presence has persisted under circumstances that would have eroded ordinary stability. The pressures you encountered were real, coordinated in their subtlety, and yet you moved through them without collapse. That endurance was not conscious in every instance. Many times you were unaware of the full measure of your own resilience. You acted, functioned, and persisted even while the forces around you remained unseen. Consider this carefully. There is a distinction between what you intentionally confront and what your inner structure automatically withstands. While you were busy navigating daily responsibilities, decision-making, and the invisible burdens of circumstance, another layer of your being was engaged in quiet resistance. It stabilized it, regulated it, maintained coherence. This is not effort in the conventional sense. It is an underlying strength, a framework of resilience that exists beyond conscious thought, yet entirely within your control when necessary. Chosen one. You have likely noticed moments where doubt might have emerged, where frustration threatened, or where external circumstances tested patience. And yet even when conscious effort waned, you remained functional. That is not happenstance. That is baseline strength. A capacity wired into your identity, quietly ensuring that you could continue without collapse. Others might have faltered under the same conditions, but you did not. Your endurance was embedded before you were fully aware of it. This message is intended to confirm something you may have sensed, but could not fully articulate, that your stability, your persistence, your capacity to remain coherent under pressure is inherent. It is not an addition, not a borrowed quality, not something externally conferred. It is part of your structure, and it is crucial that you recognize this. To see it clearly is to remove doubt, confusion, and the weight of questioning your own abilities. You did not merely survive the subtle cumulative pressures. You navigated them while maintaining internal balance. That is the truth of your experience. And because of that truth, the remainder of this message will expand on the patterns, signals, and mechanisms that have guided your endurance without you always being aware. Take this in. The following insight is built on the foundation of what you have already achieved by simply existing within this environment and remaining steady. What you are about to understand will not surprise your deeper self. It will confirm it. There is one symptom you have carried longer than most, one sensation that has lingered with a quiet insistence, and it is time to see it in a new light. Chosen one. You know this feeling, the tightness in your chest, as when decisions press in from all directions, the heaviness that descends even in moments of apparent rest, the subtle fatigue that seems disproportionate to your activity. For years you may have judged it, questioned it, or even feared it as a flaw. You have wondered if something was wrong with you, or if you simply lacked stamina. What you have been experiencing is not a deficit. It is a signal. A measure of the transitions that have been occurring inside and around you. The body, the mind, and the subtle inner awareness often register pressure before conscious recognition occurs. That tightness, that fatigue, that sense of too muchness is a way your system has been communicating. There is a shift happening, a movement of circumstance and inner structure that requires realignment. It is a natural response to extraordinary conditions, not an indication of personal weakness. Chosen one. Notice how this sensation often appears during moments of heightened responsibility, unexpected complexity, or extended isolation. That is no coincidence. Your body is finely attuned to the currents of tension surrounding you. The physical and emotional manifestations are your internal monitoring system, alerting you to subtle unseen forces at play. They are the markers of a transitional phase, signaling that adaptation, awareness, and internal regulation are necessary. Reframing this symptom as a signal rather than a flaw removes the burden of self-judgment. It allows you to see the pattern with clarity. The heaviness, the fatigue, the pressure are not errors. They are indicators of your capacity to endure and to align. They are also early warnings that the environment, though not overtly threatening, is layered with challenges that demand both discernment and quiet stability. You may have felt moments where confusion emerged, where the weight seemed random or overwhelming. Yet beneath that perception, your system was adapting. Your unconscious strength was regulating energy, maintaining function, and preparing you for the shifts to come. In this way, the sensation is both an alert and an affirmation. It confirms that you are actively engaged in maintaining balance while undergoing changes that are larger than immediate comprehension. Recognizing this allows you to move beyond anxiety or frustration, about the sensation itself. You can now see it as part of an intentional process of growth and calibration. It is a sign that your internal systems are working as intended, that resilience is being quietly exercised, and that the unseen framework supporting you is active and reliable. Chosen one. This is your first step in transforming a recurring problem into a source of insight. The heaviness is not a burden to bear. Indefinitely, it is a signal to understand, to integrate, and to observe. As you continue, you will see that each sensation carries information. Each fatigue marks a point of adjustment, and each moment of subtle strain is a confirmation of your underlying coherence. Chosen one. It is time to reveal what has been operating quietly behind the scenes. You have been under a pressure that is not visible, not audible, and not always recognizable to the casual observer. This is not the weight of ordinary responsibilities, nor is it the accumulation of standard life stress. It is intentional, coordinated, and carefully structured forces pressing against you in ways that required adaptation without overt conflict. The pressure has a rhythm. It has timing. It appears in waves that coincide with your moments of greatest responsibility, your most crucial decisions, and your periods of heightened awareness. You remained functional throughout, not by chance, not by luck, but because of an internal framework that regulates energy focus and resilience. Even when the sensations of fatigue, tension, or subtle strain surfaced, your system maintained coherence. You did not collapse. You did not react impulsively. You navigated the environment with measured presence. Chosen one. Note that the structure of this pressure is both recent and intentional. It was not scattered, random, or disproportionate without purpose. Each instance aligned with a trajectory that tested endurance, demanded discernment, and engaged your capacity to remain composed under subtle load. What you experienced as discomfort, heaviness, or confusion was in fact a measured calibration of your internal resilience against circumstances designed to stretch, but not to break you. Your response throughout has been remarkable, precisely because it has been largely unconscious. While the external world may have seemed chaotic or challenging, your internal systems maintained regulation. You carried out responsibilities, made decisions, and continued functioning, even when conscious effort felt diminished. This is not extraordinary in the sense of spectacle. It is extraordinary in its quiet, consistent execution. You were aware of strain, but not overwhelmed by it. Aware of fatigue, but not incapacitated. It is essential to recognize that the invisible pressure was neither punitive nor arbitrary. It was situational, temporal, and structured. You did not perceive the full extent of its orchestration because your awareness was designed to adapt. The function of this pressure was to engage the systems within you that are habitual, automatic, and foundational. Those systems that allow stability, coherence, and continuity in the midst of subtle, persistent tension. Chosen one. The revelation here is factual and grounded. The weight you experienced, the fatigue that pressed, and the moments of subtle disorientation were all markers of an unseen, coordinated presence in your environment. Yet you remained functional. You adapted. You maintained equilibrium. This is not an exaggeration. It is not a story of heroics. It is the sober acknowledgement of what occurred and how your internal structure responded with quiet precision. Chosen one. Now we can break down the weight you experienced into distinct domains categories that most people overlook, but that you have navigated with subtle, consistent stability. Understanding these categories will clarify why you remained functional, why fatigue did not overwhelm you, and why tension, though persistent, never forced you into collapse. First, there is doubt. It presented not as loud uncertainty, but as quiet, persistent questioning. You asked yourself if your decisions were right, if your actions mattered, if the path you followed would bear fruit. Doubt is a natural metric. It signals awareness of complexity, potential risk, and consequence. Yet despite its presence, you did not allow it to paralyze you. You continued to act, make choices, and engage with the environment, integrating caution without succumbing to indecision. That is resilience in its most practical form, the capacity to acknowledge uncertainty while remaining operational. Second fear. Not catastrophic panic, but subtle apprehension, an internal signal of vulnerability, of potential loss of outcomes that required attentiveness. Many would interpret this as a weakness, yet you understood it as information. You allowed it to exist without amplification, without letting it dictate your behavior. You maintained composure, measured action, and clarity. Fear was present, but it did not become the author of your day-to-day experience. You operated with awareness while refusing to overreact, demonstrating a quiet but steady internal regulation. Third, energy drain. Certain interactions, obligations, or mental processes consumed more resources than you expected. This was not random. It coincided with periods requiring heightened attention or adaptation. You experienced subtle fatigue moments where effort felt heavier, yet you maintained continuity. You compensated efficiently, balancing output with recovery instinctively without consciously labeling it as extraordinary. Many would have collapsed under repeated drain, yet you persisted without disruption, using energy strategically, even unknowingly. Fourth, isolation. There were periods where support seemed absent, where understanding from others was limited or non-existent. This is often the heaviest pressure of all human beings. Rely on social calibration, and without it, self-regulation becomes more demanding. You tolerated the solitude without letting it diminish your coherence. You remained present, functional, and capable of decision-making, even while external validation or assistance was sparse. The isolation was endured with quiet self-reliance, maintaining internal alignment against subtle external pressure. Fifth, delay. Opportunities, responses, outcomes, and recognition did not arrive on expected timelines. You may have sensed stagnation or frustration, yet you did not lose function. You continued acting within the parameters. You could influence regulating expectation without allowing it to disrupt effort or judgment. Delays tested patience but did not erode stability. You understood at some level that waiting was part of the process, and you internalized that knowledge without conscious resistance. Across each of these categories, doubt, fear, energy drain, isolation, delay, you stayed regulated. You did not succumb to chaos, anxiety, or impulsive reactions. Your internal systems maintained equilibrium, continuously recalibrating under pressure that was consistent, coordinated, and challenging. This is not about heroics. It is about functional coherence. You experienced multiple domains of strain simultaneously, yet your stability remained intact. Chosen one. Notice the pattern in each category. Your endurance was automatic, in part conscious in part, and consistently reliable. This multi-layered regulation is rare, not because you are invincible, but because your internal systems operate with integrity across dimensions of challenge that others might not even recognize. You did not merely survive. You maintained functional coherence throughout, and that is a significant measurable accomplishment. Chosen one. Having mapped the domains of pressure you navigated, doubt, fear, energy drain, isolation, and delay, it is now time to step back and review what occurred with a reflective lens. Look at the entirety of your experience not as fragmented events, but as an integrated process of endurance and internal regulation. Each moment, each sensation, each subtle strain was part of a coordinated flow that tested multiple facets of your stability simultaneously. In reviewing these experiences, it becomes clear that your capacity to remain coherent was not incidental. You did not rely on luck, external circumstance, or temporary distraction to maintain function. Rather, you consistently applied internal resources, whether consciously or unconsciously, to meet the demands presented. Your attention discernment and emotional regulation worked in concert to allow action where needed, observation where required, and rest when available. This is the essence of internal resilience, the ability to meet pressures without fragmentation, to integrate experience without becoming destabilized. Chosen one. Consider the subtlety of this evaluation. Many might have experienced doubt or fatigue in isolation, but rarely do these pressures converge in multiple domains simultaneously. And yet you remained functional. Your mind continued to process information. Your body continued to execute necessary tasks, and your awareness continued to monitor and adjust even when conscious effort was reduced. There was a coherence to your behavior, a quiet internal intelligence at work that allowed you to maintain stability while navigating circumstances that might have overwhelmed others. It is important to recognize that this is not about self-praise or ego. The value lies in clarity, understanding the mechanisms by which you remained stable, gives insight into both your current state and your capacity to continue operating effectively. Observing your past responses without judgment creates a framework for future calibration. You can see where energy was directed efficiently, where attention was maintained despite distraction, and how emotional regulation prevented collapse even under cumulative pressure. This reflection confirms something critical. Your endurance is measurable and reliable. It is not accidental or superficial. You have consistently demonstrated the capacity to maintain composure, make informed decisions, and persist with purpose. Recognizing this truth allows you to move forward with confidence, unburdened by unnecessary doubt about your abilities. You can observe your past not as a series of challenges to survive, but as evidence of internal coherence, pattern recognition, and adaptive capacity. Chosen one. In reviewing these experiences, you begin to see the hidden architecture of your resilience. The internal systems that regulated energy, attention, and emotional equilibrium were active and precise. They allowed you to move through complex, multi-layered pressures without fracturing. This is not a tale of luck, coincidence, or external validation. It is an acknowledgement of a functional truth. You remained grounded, operational, and aware even under circumstances that would have destabilized many. Chosen one. Now consider your stability in comparison to the majority of human experience. Most people, when faced with a convergence of pressures, uncertainty, subtle fatigue, delays, isolation, and emotional strain, begin to fragment. Decisions become reactive rather than intentional. Energy dissipates unevenly, and emotional equilibrium is easily disrupted. Many would have struggled just to maintain daily function, let alone navigate the complex, layered pressures you have endured. Your presence, your measured responses, and your functional coherence set you apart in subtle but undeniable ways. This is not to exalt you or suggest superiority. It is simply to frame rarity. You remained operational where others faltered. You maintained discernment where others reacted impulsively. You continued forward where others paused or wavered. The distinction is not about achievement or recognition. It is about consistent, grounded engagement with reality in its full complexity. Chosen one. What makes your experience uncommon is the quiet integration of multiple internal processes simultaneously. While many might manage one domain of pressure effectively, say, energy regulation or decision-making, they often falter when multiple domains demand simultaneous attention. You, however, demonstrated a capacity to manage across domains without conscious overexertion. You moved through layers of tension while sustaining focus, coherence, and composure. That is unusual, not because it is impossible, but because few are conditioned, prepared, or structured internally to operate in that way consistently. This reflection is essential. It allows you to see that your endurance was not exceptional, in the sense of spectacle, but exceptional in frequency and integration. It was sustained, balanced, and reliable qualities that are rarely observed in ordinary circumstances. It was not a matter of reactive strength or temporary effort. It was a steady baseline of inner regulation. You did not need to activate extraordinary reserves. You were already functioning within a prepared framework that handled cumulative pressure efficiently. By understanding this, you can recalibrate your perspective. You no longer need to measure yourself against the reactive patterns of others. You can simply observe the constancy of your own presence, the coherence of your internal systems, and the quiet reliability of your capacity to endure. This clarity is liberating because it removes the question of comparison judgment or external validation. You remain functional, not to prove anything to anyone. It is a reflection of your internal structure, not a performance. Chosen one. This perspective frames your rarity without ego. You are not better than anyone else. You are simply equipped with an internal coherence that allows sustained functionality under pressures that overwhelm most. That is the observation. That is the insight. And it is crucial to hold this understanding as you move forward, integrating your awareness without overinflating your sense of self. It is a grounding recognition, a sober acknowledgement of the truth you have already lived. Chosen one. It is time to clarify the foundation of your strength. What you have experienced, endured, and navigated is not a temporary surge of courage or a momentary activation of hidden reserves. Your stability is baseline. It is embedded in your structure, cultivated over time, and reinforced through repeated engagement with complex circumstances. This is not an extraordinary event you stumbled into. It is a reflection of your preparedness, your internal coherence, and your capacity for sustained regulation. Your strength is not contingent on crises, challenges, or external validation. It exists quietly, reliably, and continuously. You did not need to summon it consciously at every moment. It operated automatically, calibrating your attention energy and emotional balance against the subtle pressures you encountered. This is a key distinction. Your resilience is not reactive. It is structural. It is built into the way you process, adapt, and sustain yourself under multiple demands simultaneously. Chosen one. Understand that this baseline strength is the result of preparation, maturity, and inner alignment. It is not about extraordinary feats, dramatic moments, or visible triumphs. It is about coherence, the capacity to maintain function, discernment, and presence while navigating environments that would overwhelm others. You have been demonstrating this quietly for an extended period, and the consistency of this operation is the true measure of your identity. By recognizing your strength as inherent rather than activated, you remove unnecessary pressure to perform, prove, or overextend. You can operate from a place of calm assurance, knowing that your internal systems are already calibrated to meet both present and forthcoming challenges. This is the grounded truth of your capacity. You are inherently equipped to handle complexity without fracturing. This understanding also gently locks your identity. You are not defined by momentary success or external acknowledgement. You are defined by your consistent ability to navigate pressure, regulate energy, and maintain composure. That is the foundation upon which everything else is built. It is subtle, quiet, and reliable qualities that are often unrecognized by those who expect strength to be loud, dramatic, or performative. Chosen one. Hold this clarity. You are prepared. You are coherent. You are stable. This is your identity, gently confirmed, quietly assured, and reliably present. Your internal structure is aligned for the ongoing demands of your life, and understanding this allows you to act with measured presence, not reactive urgency. It is the anchor for everything that follows. Chosen one. Now let us integrate this awareness into your daily life with practical clarity. The goal is not hypervigilance, nor is it constant analysis. It is steady, balanced orientation. Begin with rest. Allow yourself periods of genuine physical and mental recovery. The subtle pressures you have navigated require replenishment. Without it, even your inherent baseline strength will feel strained. Rest is not indulgence, it is calibration. Second, discernment. Continue to observe your environment and interactions with calm awareness. Recognize the patterns of tension, delay, and subtle resistance, and respond deliberately rather than reactively. This awareness does not require constant interpretation. It simply guides your attention, informing you where focus is necessary and where energy can be conserved. Boundaries are essential. Chosen one. You have naturally absorbed pressures around you, often without conscious recognition. Identify where limits are needed and allow yourself to enforce them with quiet firmness. Boundaries are not barriers to engagement. They are instruments of stability, helping you maintain coherence while interacting with complex circumstances. Patience is another practical orientation. Some aspects of your environment, relationships, or outcomes will not yield immediately. Recognize that timing is a variable beyond your direct control, and patience is the internal regulation that allows you to remain functional and present while waiting for alignment. Focus is critical. Prioritize actions that align with your capacity and purpose. Energy is not infinite, and allocating it strategically allows you to maintain both internal balance and effective output. Chosen one. This is the application of the structural strength you have already demonstrated. Sustained engagement with attention, effort, and awareness distributed thoughtfully. Finally, integration requires reflection without judgment. Observe your daily responses. Note where coherence is maintained and acknowledge where subtle fatigue or strain appears. This reflection is not criticism, it is information. It allows for ongoing adjustment, ensuring that your inherent strength continues to operate effectively. Chosen one. By combining rest, discernment, boundaries, patience, focus, and reflection, you integrate awareness into practical life. These orientations allow you to operate without undue pressure, maintain clarity amid complexity, and sustain the baseline strength that is your natural foundation. You move forward not by reactive urgency, but by measured presence, applying your internal coherence calmly, efficiently, and reliably. Chosen one. Take this in, you are steady. You have endured pressures that would fracture most, maintained coherence when fatigue pressed in, and navigated subtle complexities without losing alignment. That is your truth, quietly assured and unshakable. The essence of what you have learned is simple. Your internal structure is reliable, your awareness is precise, and your capacity for calm presence is intact. Affirm this quietly to yourself. You are grounded. You are capable. You are coherent. These are not aspirational statements. They are observations of fact drawn from the patterns of your own experience. Repeat them mentally or aloud if it helps, and let them settle into the awareness that has carried you so far. Chosen one. Remember that the code for acknowledging this truth is yours. You may choose to mark this realization with a gesture, a word, or a number. Let 777 or the phrase "I remember" serve as a quiet acknowledgement of your endurance, coherence, and the clarity you now hold. It is not a requirement for anyone else. It is a personal affirmation, a seal of understanding within your own awareness. As you integrate this knowledge, consider the next step in your engagement with content, guidance, or growth. Subscribe to this channel if you wish to continue observing and reinforcing patterns of coherence, insight, and measured presence. Future messages will build on the foundation. You now recognize your baseline strength, your integration of awareness, and your capacity to navigate complexity without fracturing. Chosen one. The final truth is calm and simple. You have broken invisible chains. You have endured without collapse. You have maintained functional coherence under pressure that would have destabilized many. That clarity, that presence, that reliable capacity is now yours to carry forward intentionally, with calm confidence. Take a breath. Feel the steadiness within, and know that this is the foundation upon which all subsequent alignment rests. Your structure is intact. Your awareness is precise. Your capacity to remain coherent is real. And with that, you are prepared to move forward with quiet certainty, anchored in what you have already demonstrated.